this segment of the Elly interviews, you'll be hearing from Pattie Lovett-Reid. Patricia is one of Canada's leading personal finance experts, and she's also the chief financial commentator for CTV News. She shares with us some invaluable strategies and tips that students can actually implement today that will lay the foundation for a strong financial future. So I hope you enjoyed this segment with Patricia. To this segment of the Elly interviews. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Pattie Lovett-Reid, who is one of Canada's top personal financial professionals.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. But it's great to be here.
Thank you. So I want to start off by asking a little bit about you, Pattie.
Okay.
Before we get to advice for the students.
Sure.
And I wanted to find out for you, in your early teens and 20s, what was your relationship with money and how has that changed over the years?
Oh my goodness, I love money. I've loved money right from the age of about 5 or 6. I know that sounds kind of gauche to say because people aren't supposed to love money. I remember being in my teens and having 3 paper routes, and I was in my late teens, so finally my parents said, I'm not so sure you should be doing this. Maybe get a different type of job. But I never really cared about money until I found myself a single mom with 2 young children. And it was a moment in time where I remember thinking, I've never balanced my own checkbook. I've never financially had any goals. And I don't know, and it's sort of a strange thing to say, but I don't know if I can afford those red patent shoes my daughter has on ever again. And in the same heartbeat, I said to myself, of course I will. I just have to take control.
So you always had that sense of financial responsibility really early on?
Well, I did. Sadly, my father passed away when I was 9. He was 36 and he died of a heart attack. So Mom became a single mom. She was a stay-at-home mom. And I watched her resiliency. I once said, she collapsed and she said, how dare you? I knew exactly what I had to do. I went and got a job. I figured out the mortgage and bump, and away she went.
You had a good role model.
She was, and Mom is still with us, and she still sort of preaches to where are you going to get the biggest bang for your buck? That's where you spend your money. But you also have to have a little bit for that rainy day.
Right, that's important. It's absolutely important to have. Now, what will people be surprised to find out about you when it comes to personal finance? So, for example, do you always follow your own advice, or is there something that you?
Am I a fraud? Yeah, a little bit of a fraud.
Yeah. Sometimes the carpenters live in the worst.
Yeah. That's a really good question. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is that I never went to university, and back when I was in high school, you could drop math, which I did in grade 9. So it's kind of funny that I'm the chief financial commentator and I don't have a mathematical background at all.
Funny you should say that because I often say finance is more than the numbers.
It is absolutely more than the numbers. Having said that, you have to understand the numbers, you have to interpret the numbers, and then you have to sort of work with them so the numbers help you get to where you want to be. That's not to say I didn't go back and do some math courses to bring myself up to speed, that sort of thing. But I'm in a position right now where I'm very happy with our financial foundation. And by having that financial foundation in place, what it does at this stage in our life, and we have 4 adult grown children, it allows us financial freedom. We get to do what we want to do when we do it, and we are. And so that's a really nice place to be.
Excellent. So my other question would be, how much credence would you give to the notion that one reason why people have such a hard time with managing personal finances is that they associate their net worth and their self-worth? They can't make the distinction.
Yeah, and it's absolutely the two are not aligned. There's no question about it. People are not what their net worth is. So I think that people are overwhelmed by money. I think there's a real desire to keep up with the Joneses, and they're broke. And so as a result, you've got social media where no one will ever be caught in the same outfit twice. And so there are so many pressures coming at you that I think people feel overwhelmed. And no one likes the idea, just like no one likes the idea of a diet, no one likes the idea of a budget either.
Yeah, that's true.
But both work.
So what advice would you give for students trying to distinguish between instant gratification and delayed gratification?
A need and a want.
A need and a want, yeah.
You know, you can have it all, you just can't have it all at the same time. At least that's the way I've always looked at it.
Right.
So I do think you need to go through, look at your discretionary spending, figure out what it is you're spending your money on, and go back to what my mom would say. Are you getting your biggest bang for your buck? Maybe not.
Right.
And so where you can't cut costs is where you've signed on the dotted line, where there's a contractual agreement. You've got to live up to that agreement because you don't want to compromise your credit rating because you think, I no longer need that, whatever it is. So I would look at everything. I would look at how much money I have coming in, what it is I'm spending my money on, and what don't I care about as much. And that's where you have some wiggle room.
Right. And one other question that relates to women.
Yes.
So in my experience, I used to consult for a little bit some time ago, and I would meet professional women who are making a lot of money, but they don't claim ownership on it. They kind of shrink away. And then I see in my students, usually it's the girls who are like, oh, I can't do this, it's too hard. And, you know, that's the kind of stereotypical idea that we have. In your time in this field, did you see any change in that?
There's been an evolution.
Yeah.
100%. When I first came into this business, and I would say it's 100 years ago, but that maybe not quite that long ago, but, you know, women would tuck their money away in a savings account. After taxes and inflation, they would be actually losing money. When I sit down with many, many successful women now, they get it. They often don't have the time to manage their money. But the really savvy person, in my opinion, knows what they're good at, where they want to apply their efforts, and they do. And then they get the help where they need it.
Right.
And so that doesn't mean you abdicate responsibility, because here's the thing, I would never let someone take over my financial future because no one's going to care about it more than I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So I think it's about, in some cases, you work with someone, in other cases, you do it yourself. Whatever works for you. It's not right or wrong, it's just being in the game.
So there has been a shift.
Honestly, I really do think there has been a significant shift, and certainly entrepreneurship is growing. Women are climbing the corporate ladder. Education levels are advancing. So all moving in the right direction, and along with that, of course, is the earning potential.
Awesome. So my last question is, can you give students a couple tips that will help them right now where they are, first year, second year, third year, just to lay the foundation for later financial success?
I think the best one that I was ever told was, you don't create wealth by how much you make, you create wealth by how little you spend. And if you can start to curb that spending earlier on and live below your means, you will create wealth. And it's such a powerful trajectory when you think about it. I don't care if couples get together and they commingle their accounts or they don't. It's not right or wrong. But I'll go back to the statement I made earlier. Never abdicate responsibility to anyone, regardless of who you are, because no one really cares like you.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you could find yourself down the road like my mother, in her early 30s with 2 young children, and she's widowed. She didn't see that coming, but by having sort of a financial plan in place, by being involved, you know, she could pick up the pieces, and there were pieces to pick up.
So pretty much the onus is on everyone.
Every one of us,
regardless of your level of income or where you are in life, you need to have some basic understanding. So even if you have a financial advisor or a planner, you need to know what's happening or have just a general view of the landscape.
And it doesn't matter at what age, at what income. It's also about setting some goals. And understanding that if I said to you, and you're very young, you better save for retirement, you're going, gee, I really would like a condo. You're not going to get excited about saving your money. So establish some goals that matter to you, and then get excited, and then start the saving process. If you have debt, get rid of the debt. And some would say pay the most expensive debt off first, the one with the highest interest rate. In some cases, I would say that makes sense if you can do it, but you may feel better if you have 5 credit cards outstanding. Pay the smallest one in terms of balance off first. And then you're motivated, and then you've only got 4 left, and then you've got 3 left. It's all about taking charge now.
So, sorry, I just have to ask you this one follow-up question. And that is, why do you think people have such a hard time with saving? Do you think it's just the idea that they feel insecure, that they're not able to do it? So they have a setback, or is it lack of self-control?
I think it's self-control. I think it's an environment that is very consumption oriented. We want it now, and in many cases we can get it now.
How can we get people then to get off of that? What do you think?
I think what will happen is you'll start to see interest rates go higher, and the easy access to money that we've been witnessing for almost a decade, that's going to go by the wayside, and it's going to start to cost people a lot more money. And so as a result,
It's going to hurt more.
we're going to hurt more. And when things hurt enough, we make change.
Thank you so much
Thank
for taking the time
you.
to talk to us.
Well, I'm thrilled that you asked me. Thank you.